Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here today. My name is Sarah Dominic, and we're going to be going over our marketing strategy for our hospice services offered through Forever Home Health. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. So, first, we're going to start with a quick overview of the home health industry. Home health care enables the elderly and disabled to stay living in their own home instead of going to an institutional care facility like a nursing home or an assisted living community. Much of the care that's associated with our caregiving processes are activities of daily living, like dressing, grooming, bathing, meal preparation, although medical services such as medication administration, therapy sessions, and hospice care are also provided through home health agencies. The industry's employment is currently near 3.5 million, meaning that there are over 3.5 million people in America that currently work as home health or caregiver aides. The need for caregivers is always present and requires competent and trained individuals. So now we're just going to do a quick overview of Forever Home Health within the healthcare industry. So this is a privately owned agency that specializes in companionship, activities of daily living, hospice services, medication administration, and at-home therapy. We have a large service area that spans north to south from Georgetown to Kyle and west to east from Lakeway to Bastrop. The current market in the Austin area is around 100,000 individuals, but it's expected to reach over 175,000 within the next 5 years due to the incoming geriatric baby boomer population. Our current patients consist of over 300 individuals, most of which are over 65, but many are under 65 and require full-time care for disabilities or hospice necessities. Disabilities would be something like cerebral palsy or quadriplegia, whereas the hospice necessity is somebody that's given a terminal illness and they need end-of-life care. 175 of our current staff members are direct caregivers out of the 300, and 30 are registered nurses overseeing those caregivers. The other employees comprise the office staff, the transportation crew, things of that nature. So over half of our staff are direct caregivers and nurses. So now we're going to be looking at something called market segmentation, and we're going to be looking at it specifically for our hospice services. So market segmentation is the process of breaking down all of our customer or our potential customers into groups of potential buyers with similar characteristics. So looking at our target markets for home health hospice services, we're going to go into our patients. So the needs of geriatric patients can be minimal or exponential. Some patients may be fairly independent, but need someone to stand by them in the bathroom while they're showering to make sure that they don't slip and fall. Other patients may be bedridden due to old age, mature disease processes that do not allow them to move around and function on their own anymore. The demographics of this population pretty much encompass any person over the age of 65. That's what is considered to be a geriatric age. Geriatric patients, especially in our current time, tend to be more conservative in their values and processes of functioning. They do not normally like to waste money on unnecessary goods and services that are generally not needed, and they tend to be very family oriented and pick yourself up by your bootstraps type of people. Some of their behavioral characteristics include tending to want to try and do everything themselves, and they're often unwilling when it comes to being helped. Because they have lived a longer life, they sometimes believe that they have the ability to function independently, or at least as much as possible. Others, especially the women, tend to exhibit good manners and a kind disposition to those who want to help them. For the most part, each patient will fall into one of these two categories. Either they tend to resist help or they tend to accept it. The needs of dementia patients can be similar to those of geriatric patients, but with an added level of care. Dementia is a degenerative disorder of the brain, and these patients tend to de-escalate in their normal functioning and require more care as the disease process continues. This can include care with bathing, dressing, feeding, some psychosocial therapy, having to redirect them if they're becoming confused, and the list goes on and on. The demographics of dementia patients, again, are similar to that of geriatric patients in that the disease most often affects persons 65 and older. In some cases, an individual may have early onset dementia, which is a diagnosis under the age of 65 and may require care as well. The psychographics of dementia and their families can vary depending on the patient. Generally, due to their degenerative disease, patients in later stages don't normally exhibit needs or desires. Their life is completely dependent on their caregiver's actions. Patients in early stages of dementia usually still exhibit interests and hobbies and spending time with their family and friends, but their processes are just somewhat muddled and they may need assistance in remembering things. Caregivers of these patients are generally looking for kind, compassionate, and patient care for their loved ones. Behavioral characteristics of dementia patients can again be kind of wonky. Dementia patients, especially those in the later stages, can have sporadic behavioral changes. Their brains are quite literally losing the ability to reason and act in a way that is considered normal by society's terms, and therefore they may have periods of acting out or sporadic behavior, such as becoming very upset or very depressed. Others may go through significant periods of forgetfulness and may leave a stove on, a door open, or have an emotional moment because they're frustrated and they can't remember something. The needs of terminally ill patients are a little bit different. So terminally ill patients generally need full service and hospice care. These patients tend to be very weak and in need of constant medication and pain relieving measures. Pardon me. Terminally ill patients are generally those who have been battling a cancer of some kind without success. They can be others, but cancer is the most prominent one. Once they come into hospice care, they have normally done several rounds of treatments or therapies that have been unsuccessful. Other patients could include, again, those in the late stages of dementia or neurological diseases such as Parkinson's disease that require hospice care as well. The patients that are considered terminally ill are generally interested in pain management and spending time with their loved ones. Unfortunately, as they know that they are going to be passing soon, usually within 6 months, quality of life becomes the forefront of their care, and it encompasses everything from religious to psychological to religious well-being. Making sure that they have quality of care is one of our top priorities in these cases. The behavioral characteristics of terminally ill patients may vary widely depending again on the patient. On one end of the spectrum, a patient may have accepted their diagnosis and they're at peace with it, and therefore they exhibit calm, quote, normal expressions. On the other hand, if the patient is not at peace with their diagnosis, they may become angry or depressed and lash out at caregivers or loved ones. Terminally ill patients may exhibit a certain level of confusion due to their medication regimen or fatigue from a lack of activity. This is kind of a normal finding, especially when they're in hospice care. So moving on, we're going to look at the target markets, not just for the patient like we just previously did, but for the buyer. So our primary market buyer is going to be adults seeking care for their loved ones, usually a parent. The needs of these people are security that their loved one or loved ones will be provided safe and reliable care. This is kind of their main security need. They need to know that if they're not there to care for their parent or their loved one, that somebody else is there and to do it just as well. The demographics of these buyers often include middle-aged adults that are either in their 40s or maybe just even entering into the geriatric time period themselves. Normally, these age ranges go from 45 to 70, depending on the age and lifespan of the parent they're seeking care for. The psychographics, again, are pretty similar to their geriatric parents. Like their parents, these children are not keen on spending money when it's not necessary and are often seen as frugal, hardworking, and conservative. In regard to the care of their parents, these buyers can tend to be either very hands-off or very hands-on. There's not normally an in-between, although exceptions do occur. If they're hands-off in their parents' care, They normally just find a decent care provider, hire them, set a schedule, and then they have little contact with the agency after that. If they tend to be more hands-on, they'll do most of the same things, but instead they will keep in contact with the agency regularly, and they may even attend the appointments with their parents and the caregiver, either occasionally, every time. It kind of depends on what their preference is. The secondary market would be a senior adult seeking assistance in caring for their spouse. The needs of this spouse seeking care are often that of an assistive role normally. If a spouse has the ability to care for their loved one, they normally will. But if they find themselves unable to do certain things, like helping them bathe, they may seek assistance in those specific tasks. The demographics of this group are similar to that of the geriatric patient, normally 65 plus, because again, it's their spouse, so they're normally around the same age. The psychographics of this group are again similar to that of geriatrics because they are in the same age group. They hold conservative values, they're frugal, they're hardworking, and they're usually family-oriented. In regard to the care of their loved ones, this group is normally very hands-on, opposed to children of geriatric patients who can be either hands-on or hands-off. Because they live in the same household as the patient, they normally prefer to be involved in the care to some extent. Say, if the caregiver is assisting with a shower or helping the patient get dressed, the spouse may be the one to go get the towels or go get the set of clothes. That way they're still participating in the care of their loved one, even though they're not doing the physical task. So now we're going to look at something that's called positioning. This is simply the process of tailoring your product or your service so that it stands out from the competition. So now we're going to kind of just get into our positioning strategies for how we can market to these customers. The first strategy we can use is what's called taglining. This is just making a phrase or a sentence that we can use to market to potential customers that will show the essence of how we intend to care for our patients. I suggest that we use something along the lines of safe, comprehensive, and compatible care led by professional family and friends. This tagline not only offers the stance that our caregivers function on professional values, but that they are human beings with families and friends, just like the customers, who are willing to care for patients and families as they would for their own. The next type of strategy we can use is what's called perceptual mapping. This is something that we can put on the internet or on our website, and it shows where Forever Home Health, along with our two most prominent competitors, Home Instead and Companion Care, where we fall within the realm of affordability and customer care. If you'll look at the map, Forever Home Health is the most affordable option for hospice services, and we also carry the highest customer satisfaction rating. While Home Instead carries a comparable customer satisfaction rating, their prices don't reflect as much affordability as ours do. Companion Care Angels, while they are more affordable than Home Instead, are not as affordable as we are, and they have a less than adequate customer satisfaction and service rating according to their Google ratings. Now we're going to transition into what's called differentiation. So this is the idea of designing a product or service so that it has one or more unique qualities that are valued by our customers and consistent with our chosen positioning. So this is what's going to make us stand out against our competition, what's different, what can we offer that other people cannot. So when geriatric patients enroll in our hospice services, specifically we're talking about geriatric patients right now, instead of in the services provided by Home Instead or Companion Care Angels, then they will receive comprehensive, affordable companion and medical care because of our intensively trained staff and our wide range of services offered and our low hourly pricing. When you look at dementia patients and their families, when they enroll in our hospice services instead of in those of our competitors, they receive compassionate care related to their degenerative process, as well as have a routine set in place to limit added confusion that's usually accompanied by a dementia diagnosis. Our caregivers are trained in the care of dementia patients, including what mannerisms to use and what to avoid. how to redirect confused patients, and how to properly diffuse an emotionally escalated situation when somebody becomes confused. When terminally ill patients enroll in our hospice services instead of in our competitor services, they'll receive a care that is geared towards comfort practices and quality of life to ensure dignity in the passing process. Our staff is comprised of nurses and caregivers who are fluent in medication administration and comfort measures necessary for the implementation of best possible care for end-of-life services. Forever Home Health also takes some of the burden out of the caregiving process with our experience in handling claims with Medicare. This is something that's available to all three service markets: geriatric, dementia, and terminally ill patients. But it's also a service that's not provided by our two most prominent competitors. If desired by the purchaser of services, whether that be the patient themselves or their loved one, they can provide their Medicare information to our team of insurance specialists, and we'll handle all of the claims for you. This takes away the burden of having to sit on the phone talking to Medicare, having to figure out how to upload something to the internet, all of that. We can communicate directly with Medicare. That way the patients and families will get the documentation, but not have to deal with the process. Along with this service, we also provide an online portal that updates loved ones on the patient's care for their appointments. This is something, again, that our competitors do not offer. This service can specify what services were provided during an appointment, if any services were refused by the patient, and it can also show recommendations by the caregiver on what services may need to be added or taken away. So say somebody has an hour-long appointment for getting help with a shower, but the caregiver notices that their house is also untidy, or maybe it needs to be cleaned and it looks like it's been that way for a little while. The caregiver can suggest that they add on short cleaning services, which would be another hour or half hour, or they may recommend that services get taken away. So say that they do have cleaning services already, but whenever they go to their house, the house is already clean, there's not much that needs to be done, and it doesn't really seem necessary for the patient to have to pay to have somebody come clean their house when their house is already clean. That's another way that we try to help our patients out. If we notice that a service is not needed, that they're paying for, we may recommend that that service be taken away. So after summarizing all of this and looking into our market and who we're trying to market to, we've come up with some recommended next steps. So due to baby boomers reaching old age, there's an ongoing and new potential market for geriatric clients. By marketing to this specific demographic, specifically by conservative family-oriented means, we could create a patient database that is likely to continue on for several years due to increased life expectancy. While there are over 3.5 million people in American healthcare workforce, less than half of them have experience in working with dementia and Alzheimer's patients. By advertising to the dementia and Alzheimer's market, and in particular marketing to the family members in charge of their care, we can create a customer index and profitability based on the compassionate care that we're trained to provide our patients. So because we have people that are experienced in this type of care, we're more wanted, we're more desired as caregivers for this type of demographic. While terminally ill patients used to spend out their last days in the care of hospital staff, there's been a shift to home care as a preference due to the concern for quality of life. So while people used to have hospice services provided in hospital, they're now kind of wanting to come home instead so that they have a better quality of life at the end of their life. By marketing to this set of patients and their loved ones, possibly providing means for their care, we can ensure that our customers are given the maximum comfort levels possible, as well as engaging in increased profitability for the company. So not only can we give patients a better outcome, we can give the company a better outcome as well. In order to advertise to children of potential customers, we have to pull at their heartstrings and show that we are a family-oriented company. By using another tagline system, something along the lines of let's visit dad. We can portray that we will care for their parents as we would our own. There's another company that uses the tagline, a place for mom, for like a nursing home. Something like that really appeals to these customers and their needs for their parents. Current happy customers can be a great avenue for potential business opportunities. If a customer is happy with the care that they or a loved one are receiving, they may be more inclined to spread the word about our company. We may be able to achieve this to some degree by offering lower hourly rates for referrals. If a new patient comes into our care with a referral, we may be able to offer that patient and their referrer an hourly rate that's, say, $1 or $2 cheaper for a set amount of time, say 6 months to a year. So instead of paying our hourly rate of $20 per hour, they could be paying $18 per hour for that set amount of time. With this, that wraps up the end of our show. Please feel free to ask any questions if you have any, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.